Welcome to another episode of The Greatest Pod, where we discuss and debate what makes something great. I'm Ron Swallow.
I'm Ed Greer, and today we're going to talk about greatest origins and backstories in pop culture. And obviously, I make the disclaimer at the beginning of every episode. We're probably not going to get to your fucking thing, your favorite fucking thing you like. We're just two guys talking. We don't
Yep.
know everything. We haven't read everything. We haven't seen everything. This is our lives reflected. And but also, I think what we're trying to add to the conversation is noting some of the greatest backstories and why they impacted us. I think that's mainly
Yeah,
what we're supposed to be here for.
absolutely. And I gotta tell you, the most important backstory is my own backstory. Okay, so if you'd like to find out about the origin of Ron Swallow, you can buy my album June 17th. It's called On the Wing of a Dragon. Look out for it. It's going to be on all the stuff, Spotify, Apple Plus. I know normally we do this at the end of the show, but today I'm doing it at the beginning. If you want to find out about the Ron Swallow origin story, which is actually a pretty entertaining origin story,
hmm
then check it out. Okay. Now, but seriously, uh, I I feel like origin stories are it's such an interesting dichotomy because they can be generic, but then even in generic situations, they're impactful. Let's just bring out a big one right away. Superman.
hmm
It doesn't seem like that. It seems kind of generic, really, if you think about it.
Well, I
Now,
mean, I think when everybody bites off of you for 70 years, it could be like
right?
pretty, pretty, you could seem pretty generic when in actuality, you're obviously an originator of sorts. I mean, there was always that guy's hyper strong because he was I think the first time that I don't know if we remember as a culture, the first time somebody said the gravity of another planet will make you strong. That's number one. That was one of the first things they said about Superman. It wasn't they hadn't worked out all that solar bullshit. They
Yeah,
used to say Krypton had greater gravity, and that's why he could jump high and shit. And that's why his flesh was dense because he was so muscly and shit. And that was about it. And he's fast because he can move his weight really fast. That was about it. And then the motherfuckers start frost breath and shit and shooting eye beams and flying in and all this extracurricular bullshit. So I think that really made them go a lot deeper on the solar this and the blah blah blah. But if
yeah,
you're talking about I'm a strange motherfucker from a strange land and I come here with skills, that is about the most generic origin in pulp history. Like everybody has it.
yeah,
Tarzan. I'm an English baby in Africa. My exoticness in this situation will help me defeat the exoticness of this situation. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? In Edgar Rice Burroughs' mind. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, and like Superman being from super high gravity planet, goes to Kansas, goes to the city, beats up landlords. It's a perfect small origin story. And then it
yeah.
just gets gilded and gilded and gilded over 70 years into something way different, that has all this science.
Yeah, but it also adds some interesting, the dying planet thing
hmm
adds an extra bonus to it because you're the last of a human species of some type. And that makes it interesting to me as well, like I always think about like what if it was reversed and Earth was, I don't know, going to be destroyed by climate change finally, or
hmm
or going to be hit by a meteor and explode, and we're like, okay, we got to get a human out of this planet just so that human beings live on, and we jet some baby and they, in a cryo or whatever to stay
hmm
young and finally make it to another planet. And now on this planet, for whatever reason, it's lighter gravity like Mars or something, and they get to jump high like John from Mars or whatever.
hmm
Uh,
John
that's
Carter, yeah.
actually John Carter from Mars. That's actually halfway interesting because like now you're saying a whole culture has disappeared and you're the last of that culture, but you don't even really know that culture and now have to become part of another culture and find beauty in that. So like that's kind of like when you think about it that way, that's pretty interesting.
Well,
But
when you distill it down to that, it's actually super cool. But what ends up happening for like the last 30, 40 years, and we've talked about this we talked about when we had Bill on to talk about Superman. Um, it's like Superman, it's just a pet peeve of mine
yeah.
that I don't like how much Krypton we've gotten for 30, 40 years. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It seemed like, I lost my home. And occasionally they do some story where a ghost After Effects image of Jor-El would come and say something. Or it just seems like the Silver Age was kind of that. Or like an imaginary story where he went back to Krypton or something. You know what I'm saying? Don't hold me to that. But it seems like that's kind of the flavor. And then somewhere in the 80s, it was like, nah, man, he's got a fucking learning cube or something in there with him, you know what
Yep.
I'm saying? That's teaching him Krypton language and shit. And if you just, I'll put this away, but one day the kid's gonna find this and just get all the knowledge of Krypton, including perfect AI representations of his parents and shit. That bullshit is fairly recent, but yet fairly recent for Superman could be 40 years ago, you know, and it just has it kept on since. And it's just, how alien can you actually feel if you can go in the fucking barn and press a button and go to alien land and speak fucking Kryptonian with your daddy and shit? It's just,
Yeah.
no, I lost that. And now I'm a Kansas farm boy, even though
Mhm.
there
It's
isn't
way
a bit
more
of
interesting.
farm. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's way more interesting. Um, well, here's an interesting thought then. What about, like, retconning, to make it better? So, like, the original Swamp Thing is, like, a dude who gets chemicals put on him and then, like, is like the Swamp Thing, like, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mixes with his plants, there's a little explosion, bam. But then you get Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, where he's killed with the chemicals, but it mixes with these plants that become a god, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
the god is confused because the feelings of this man is inside of the god, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
sure if it wants to be a person or a god. And that is wild and interesting.
Mm-hmm. Dude, do you know what that is almost as interesting as?
What?
The 57,000 times they make dudes into ninjas. They send them to like a ninja camp, like a ninja island, and then they just come out more ninja than ever before.
Wait a minute, that's the greatest, those are all the greatest origin stories.
Like, oh man, I'm hiking on the Himalayas. Wait a minute, what are you doing? You're pushing me off the rope bridge, and now wolves are attacking. So, my wife. Oh shit, this is terrible. Young Danny Rand goes into Kunlun and learns kung fu. It's like, oh my fucking god! Every second, it's about getting a white man close to kung fu and just letting them dominate. You know what I'm saying? It seems like it's just such a plan over and over again. We were
Well,
talking
let me
about
tell
bad.
you, as a white man who loves kung fu, that is our dream. It is truly our dream
Dude,
to become the best at kung fu. It's like you're born if you were born anywhere around the 70s and you saw any Bruce Lee shit, that's it. That's what
dude.
you wanna be.
Dude, or and the people who were born in the 80s who fucking got ninja-fied.
Oh,
The
yeah.
ninja shit, like, people don't remember, like, the Daredevil becoming a ninja in, like, 82, 83 was way early. Because
Yeah.
like, 84, 85, basically, basically between 83 and 86, basically, they just went ham on ninja movies, and just so much, and Nine Deaths of the Ninja, the whole Shokashugi genre, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Basically from like, yeah, like I said, early 80s all the way through till about 86. America's like, all right, we're gonna do Riggs and Murtaugh, not this ninja shit. We're not gonna do this anymore. And they just shut it off. I think Carol Cole ran out of business because like the ninja train just got shut off like
It was
87,
gone.
88. It was gone. Because if you think about it, the ninja train and the urban train, there should have been urban ninja movies like fucking
100%.
those goofy Steven Seagals where he's with a two or three rappers and they're fighting the local gangs. Those movies should have had ninjas, breakdancers, ninjas, DJs, fucking
Yep.
graffiti. These are the four
Yep.
elements of hip hop.
Yep. And maybe just some skateboarding too, though, just to like mix it in a little bit, you know?
Yep. And then, of
Yeah.
course, MCing is the fifth element of hip hop, but behind ninjaing and DJing.
Oh my god. Oh, that would be classic. Classic.
Oh, but
But
I was gonna say, just real quick, the origin, we talked earlier off air about some of these origins we're gonna talk about, we're gonna come up against ones that suck ass. They're like bad. They're not just like generic or the template that everybody built something on to makes it seem generic, like Superman's origin, but just like really just sort of hand wavy and just fuck it. And chief amongst those is Barbara Gordon. I cannot tell you how many times I've attacked her, how whack her training would have had to been, and how many times people point to the plot armor of them being like, "No, they retconned it where she just was like 6 years old, just take a tactical kung fu training and stuff, and then blah blah." And there's even a series, a recent series, I think even within the New 52, if I'm not mistaken, where she goes to several Eastern countries. Stop me if you heard this one before. She goes to several Eastern countries in an attempt to train up her kung fu. And it's just like, you know what? Fuck this, man. Really pisses me off. It's a really bad origin for her. I would respect it more if she was sort of a rough and tumble fighter who was a really great detective because she studied from her dad, who was a great detective. I would
yep,
take that. Like a
it would make
sloppy back
sense.
girl that can't quite do all that bullshit, but she gets the job done because she'll hit you with a car. She'll kill your fucking ass. She might shoot you. You know what I'm saying? Like she's a wild motherfucker
Yeah.
and thrown into the mix. I would love that. I would revere that. But they put her right alongside Robins who have been trained forever, crazy kung fu artists, undead assassins. It's just like, no, come on, dude. You just can't pluck her out of high school and be in this world, dude.
Yeah. I mean, she's got a great costume and red hair, so, but
But what do you think they would have had to do, like, really, to like? It's so to me not. I'm not trying to be those dudes, you know what I'm
you
saying,
wanna
to
have
be
a
on the
good
internet.
you wanna have a good Barbara Gordon story? First off, you know who has to die? Gordon himself. Her dad has to die for her to wanna become Batman, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, if you
yeah.
wanna do it, that's because that's the same origin story,
Hmm.
or you introduce a new character that she cares about that gets killed in a crime
You know what I thought?
scenario.
You know what I really thought? Like, I
A
know
a
I can't use this
a
idea.
sister, a brother, any of that.
Right. No, no, check it out. The fucking thing I thought of was, okay, Barbara Gordon's always been like, she's just with James Gordon and whoever James Gordon's wife was at the time. It's been mixed up so much. Like he had his first son, James, before Barbara and shit like that in certain continuities. I guess Batman Year One, he's expecting a boy.
Yeah.
And so all this shit I'm saying is Batgirl should be this weird hellion from his first marriage. Like all of a sudden his wife that was taking care of the kid dies or something, and then he gets a fucking fully formed 16, 17-year-old girl on his Gotham City steps, and she grew up in Bloodhaven or New Jersey or whatever the fuck. And she's just been just John Connor handful since she was a little kid, just doing all kind of crazy shit. And he doesn't know how crazy she is, and maybe how obsessed she is with the Batman, or maybe once she gets to being in the house and running around with criminals, she sees the Batman one time. Maybe she gets busted with some dudes, like she's floozing it up with some dudes, and they get busted by the Batman, and she's just like, Jesus Christ, that shit was dope. I was so scared. But I would love to do that to people.
Yeah.
So she starts doing like a shitty Catwoman-y version of it, just like hitting people with motorcycles, hitting them with truncheons as she rides by. You know what I'm saying? Fucking up dudes she thinks are pimps, but they turn out to just be sort of wife beaters. So hey, half a dozen of one and the other one. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Just catch as catch can, fighting crimes in a shitty costume that sucks with fucked up resources. And this is what she's doing to rebel rather than just being a floozy and doing drugs and being regular. She's doing that. And Gordon thinks she's out getting fucked up all the time because she's coming home with bruises. Like, you got boyfriends beating on you and shit. You're out doing drugs. You're tired all the time, and you got all these marks on you. And she's like trying to stop crime and shit. I think that's so much more interesting than
That'd be
whatever the
great.
fuck they be doing with this librarian and I touch the computers and
And
I
then if
her,
you wanna
you
make
know.
her a badass eventually, she starts getting annoying enough that Batman's like, fine. I'll teach you
Mhm.
some shit." And
Mhm.
that's where her kung fu skills eventually come from, is being trained by Batman.
Right.
And nobody wants her trained. They think she's annoying. She's, you know, talking shit to Dick all the time. That would be fun. I love that idea. I'd get to writing that.
I can't use that at all because they'll never make that the continuity.
No,
Literally never.
no, you're right.
Literally never. Which is why everybody knows how much I love Cassandra Cain, but just look at Batgirl's origin, all the bullshit that they try to put on it, and look at Cassandra Cain as Batgirl's origin. Raised by an assassin, doesn't even teach her actual language, just beats her ass, makes her fight for every scrap of food she ever gets, makes the only language that she knows is human body language. And he does that by punching her repeatedly and shooting her when she's a little kid so that she has giant saucer-sized exit wounds in her back because they were really big when she was like 6 when she got shot the first time. All this crazy training, and she's barely keeping up with the Bat family. So Barbara Gordon's like lady self-defense class bullshit that they be trying to do is all the more offensive and ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? When you
Yeah,
compare it to
I agree.
like Cassandra Cain, how much kind of overkill they did with her origin, and how she's got like a basic the reason why she can fuck with all these Bat family dudes and be on their level is Lady Shiva's her fucking mother, number one, the best martial artist of all time, and she has that innate ability to read body language. So 50 dudes is just, oh, he's gonna punch right, he's gonna punch left, he's gonna try to grab the gun, and she just sees it like Midnighter, just all this
That guy's
drag and
got
drop
a
menus.
injured leg. It's like,
Right.
I'll take him out first. I'll run over here. Yeah, all that stuff. It's cool. And it is dope, by the way. It's very fucking dope. Um, well, okay, let's get into some big origins, some of the bigger characters. Let's go ahead and say Spider-Man. Um, I think we can all agree Spider-Man's a great origin story. Um, and an interesting arc because, you know, decides to not use his powers for anything but like being a goofball, making a little extra cash, doesn't stop a
Mhm.
dude who he could have easily stopped. And, that guy was a dick, like not just the robber, but, the wrestling promoter guy was also a dick. Um, and then, you know, gets his Uncle Ben killed. We all know the origin story. Obviously, he was bit by a spider randomly, depending on the origin story specifically, but we're going with the traditional. How do you feel about the other ones? The ones where it's like he's at the lab with Norman Osborn, those other ones. How do you feel about those?
I mean, I was kind of mad you brought up Spider-Man this early because there is no better comic book origin. We're not even going to talk this is the level of this comic book conversation. We are not going to talk about Batman's origin. It's been driven into the fucking ground, and it literally so much pales in comparison to Spider-Man's origin. It's fucking laughable. It's
Yeah,
Superman in an arm wrestling contest. It's ridiculous how much better Spider-Man's origin is than everybody's origin. Everybody's in mainstream comics in the big two. Spider-Man has by far the best origin. And you can see how the origin shaped him to be exactly that thing. Spider-Man hasn't really changed appreciably in his attitude or his methods in fucking 60 years, 50 years.
yeah,
He's been the same. They haven't done almost anything new with him. He stayed the same because this guy is not gonna all of a sudden have razor fists and magic powers and going to another dimension or something like that. Temporarily he had the Captain Universe powers, but and shit like that. But for the most part, and sometimes they'll give him 8 arms for 2 seconds. For the most part, he stayed the exact same kid because that moment locked him in time. I cannot ever shirk responsibilities. B, never respond to the call of duty when I see something, I got to say something, got to do something. And C, I'll never be able to live down letting somebody die because I didn't do something. So that's why I'm in constant motion. That's why I miss all my appointments. That's why I never have a chance to sit down and make a fucking app and make $1 million like all the people who are dumber than me. Because I'm always ripping and running, trying to make sure that nobody gets hurt on my watch. And I think that my watch extends to everything. You know what I'm saying? So
and
that's why
it's
he's all run down.
and it's so much more poignant on a very simple thing. We're not going to talk about Batman as the origin, but we'll talk about how his origin is just tragedy that kid could not have ever prevented, and in this scenario,
Mhm,
it's
mhm, mhm,
preventable. It's a decision he has made has
mhm.
harmed a person he loved, and that is the huge difference in it. And that's, I mean, it's when you make a choice that creates harm, you know that. You felt that, and then making a decision to not let that happen again to in anybody as far as you can, as the best you can, that, I mean, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. So, yeah, I guess it was probably a little too early, but you're right. It is the hands down the best origin story. But I have a question. Do you think it's as good as The Wiz's? Being bit by a mongoose when you were, or getting a mongoose blood when you were bit by a cobra.
That's the Wizard. It's the
Yeah.
Wizard.
No,
Not
he's the
the
Wiz.
It's the Wizard. That's his
It is
name,
the
the
Wizard,
Wizard.
but as far as I'm concerned, it's the Wiz.
Well, speaking of like some of these origins from the past where they were kind of like, yeah, if you could just get bit by mongoose blood, you'll be super fast. If you could go learn at the feet of some inevitably Asian master, you learn two tricks like the Shadow. Dude, the Shadow literally learned low level hypnosis, pretty good marksmanship with two guns, and sort of the theatricality that I think seeped into Batman, as far as like Batman, as far as probably things like the Nolan, version of it and stuff like that, where it's like he specifically taught to cloud your mind with like his weird eerie laugh and the guns from the shadow, pun intended, and all of this Asian mysticism of basically convincing you, even though he's right next to you, he convinces you he's not there through some form of hypnosis that can work on groups and shit. And that makes him very effective in just shooting up 30s thugs that are just like, hey, boss, what do you want? Or whatever. And he's just this master from the East. I get all that, but it's like, it takes two skills to do that, to be like a beast in that world. It takes like two out of the ordinary skills,
Yeah, yeah,
so that's kind of it's just funny to me how we've changed people's origins to make them so much more powerful or have so much more influence based upon this super heroic ideal when it starts in the pulps where like I think Doc Savage was raised in like a hyperbaric chamber or some bullshit like that, and his parents were like scientists who wanted him to be super some crap like that. They go from shit like that to Krypton to, and it goes higher and higher until you get like cosmic beings who come from other alien landscapes or other dimensions. And it's just like back in the days, hey, I knew how to box and I had a wildcat mask. And then I just started fucking guys up in alleys. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's like
It's there were black guys, and I wanted to fuck people up, so I did. That's my origin. Oh, okay, great. All right.
it's just like I'm a boxer. So what do you do as a superhero? I punch guys. It's just like okay,
Yeah.
bud.
If they
Like,
commit a crime, I punch them in the face.
and so what is
Sometimes
what?
the stomach, if it's open.
The solar plexus. But yeah, all of that shit, it just feels like as we look into origins, there is this weird generic quality to some of them. Like, okay, everybody got all their whole family killed. This is my opportunity to talk about the Punisher, but it's my opportunity to talk about everybody because
Yep.
every fucking body that don't wear a cape, whole family got killed. And some of the people who wear capes, whole family got killed. But like a lot of the guy, Mac Bolan, I think, from the Destroyer novels. No, hold on. Yeah, Mac Bolan. His origin story is that the Punisher's origin story is that John Wick. What is it about these guys who what is it about us trying to put the nuance on people like losing their families? What is that? Yeah, Conan lost his whole family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
What
think
is
it's a
it with
secret.
that?
I think it's secretly that men who have a family don't wanna have a family anymore.
So they just go to their typewriters. Yeah.
They start to feel bad because that's a shitty thing to think about, right? And then they go, "Well, what if they died and then I felt bad because I'm supposed to feel bad?" I But then I just, you can't just, okay, I kill everybody after that because I'm so badass. Okay, cool. And then that's
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I process my grief through intense Krav Maga fucking dudes up for living for 2 hours.
yeah, yeah. I get
Yeah.
real. Already good at guns because, of course, I'm already good at guns because I was in the Marines. Yeah, I was in the Marines.
Yeah. Yeah, there's and I just think it's funny how many times but see that's again, I I gotta say people don't we talked about retconned. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
belabor it, but the Punisher's retconned origin is killing all of these, including stupid John Wick and the fucking puppy. I'm not gonna talk bad about puppies. I don't want to get letters because boy, but I will say this. The the redone kind of bullshitty mystic um Punisher origin that basically he was first of all, he was killing people over there already. He was
Yeah,
killing people already. People who were like trying to do rapes and shit, people who were trying to do bad war crimes. He was killing dudes in his own unit already. So he was already a bad person, but he was doing bad to bad people in a bad situation. And he was covering up his murders with the fact that we're in a war zone. So it was easy to cover up the murders. Like he drowned a rapist, and they were just like, oh man, the Viet Cong got his ass. My bad. Oh shit. I guess we won't be walking point tonight. He was just
yep,
taking fools out. He took out his a commanding officer who was like sending them capriciously into gunfire. Like, look, I don't care how you guys take this hill. I don't even care if you do take the hill, but you're gonna march up there into those bullets because we got to have this hill for my numbers on my spreadsheet or whatever. And they sacrificing dudes' lives, so he got
yeah,
that guy sniped. You know what I'm saying? All type of shit like that. And then when it really came down to it, they were in this war zone, and all the Viet Cong just came pouring through in this big giant assault that the higher ups never believed was going to happen, and like it was him versus like 100 dudes, basically Rambo style. And maybe he had maybe 4 or 5 dudes with him. They all die. He's After the fucking whole battle is done, he's standing there with like a broken M16 that he's beaten 17 people to death with at the end, and he's got stab wounds all over, and he's like bleeding out. He's gonna die. But in the middle of the battle, he said, "Please, whatever this is, whatever this darkness is, whatever I'm reaching out to, save me. I'll do anything to get back to my family. I'll do anything. Please let me get back to my family." And it goes, all right. And it gives him the power to get out of that impossible soldier situation. And then he gets home to his fucking family and all is well. But he never understood the bargain that he made because of course that thing somehow magically he ends up in the fucking he ends up in one of the last gangland assassinations ever, the last public gangland assassins ever, and they missed the guy and hit his fucking family and hit him and give him this origin story and all this shit. And now the thing he bargained with, like, please let me get to my family, is literally gone. The only thing that kept him from killing people every fucking day
yeah.
is gone, and now he has targets to go after. And after he kills them, he realizes that didn't slake his thirst, and it just goes on and on and on. My friend, that is way better than all this other fucking bullshit. But people go, oh no, he's just like all the rest of those family dead people. And it's just like it's just everybody's diminished capacity to actually understand fucking narrative and understand like the gilding of the lily you can do when you've had so many iterations of the story. You can make it better. You can make it
100%.
better over time. You know what I'm saying? You're not stuck with Barbara Gordon being an asshole. You could do another pitch, or you can do something with her eidetic memory. In the comic book canon, she has eidetic memory, which is not photographic memory. Photographic memory, which has never been proved to exist, is the ability to supposedly see whole blocks of text and whole pages of books and be able to like read a book in your mind that you whatever. But eidetic memory is supposedly the ability to redraw or retrace an object that you saw and see it perfectly in space. So imagine how that could apply to like martial arts or whatever. Or like her
Yeah.
being able to take pictures of where people are in space. She could be damn near as good as Cassandra Cain Batgirl at fighting. Taking snapshots. Everybody knows that in basketball or something, like you look back, take a snapshot of how far people are away from you, and then you know if you have enough time to do your layup. But what if you take a snapshot and that person's super fucking fast and they beat you? That's how people get their shit blocked from behind. They take the snapshot and don't do the right calculations. What if she learned that she's been doing that her whole life? And she's a badass nerd to well, and she's a rebel, like all that shit I said. it's right there in the canon for them to do better with
And
her
on
and make
top
her
of that,
better.
that makes her a good detective because she can look at a
Mm,
room and be
yes.
like, "I see something missing here
Mhm.
because I can see a space needs to be
Yep.
filled there,
Mhm.
and what is that thing that's missing?" And close her eyes, "This is the thing that's missing. We need to
Mhm.
find this Bats," and then we
Mhm.
Bats goes to the computer, finds the thing, we get to the and,
Mhm.
like, that's her use. That is interesting, that's a great idea. I like that.
Dude, it's already in there, and it's like they, like, mention it in passing. It's like, I don't get it. But anyway, so what's an origin that really got to you that isn't maybe even in the comic book canon? Like, somebody's origin, you're just like, "Oh, man." And it could be, like, even a snippet from a book. We were talking earlier,
Well
there are great sub characters in books that have really cute little backstories.
well, actually, this is a big one. This is a big character. It's one of the, Shay from the Sword of Shannara. He's the main
Mhm.
character, but now it doesn't sound like an origin because basically he just happens to be related to he's a half elf, half human, and he happens to be a half elf, half human who's also related to the king of Shannara, who was first given the sword of truth. And the sword of truth basically reveals the truth about yourself when you touch it, and it's the one
Mhm.
weapon that can harm the warlock lord, who is basically gonna take over Shannara and do bad shit to it because he's been consumed by evil magic.
Mhm.
That's the simple version. But here's the thing: it doesn't sound like an origin story because the main guy Alanon shows up to rescue him. He's got to go on this journey to find the sword and get it and defeat the Warlock Lord and all that stuff. And that's sort of an origin story. But the real origin story is that the reason the Sword of Truth only works if a Shannara descendant touches it is because of the legend of the sword. So the sword's magic is so malleable that people decided that this was the truth, that the sword could only be used by a Shannara descendant. But because people decided that, now Shay is thrown into this adventure that he doesn't fucking want to be on.
Mhm.
And what I think is interesting about that is how people's belief created a reality for a character that then they have to rise to the occasion to become the hero.
Mhm.
To me, that's super interesting because, like, his real origin is the fact that a bunch of assholes decided that a thing must be true, and now that thing is true, and you have to handle that thing. You are thrust into something that is beyond your capabilities by a mile. With you're literally he's an innkeeper who does like fish every once in a while, and there it's a world where everybody knows a little bit about tracking and a little bit about hunting, but that doesn't mean you're
Mhm.
a true badass. It's like you just everybody has to know a little bit to not die.
Right, but he
So,
has to participate in the adventure because only a person of his bloodline can do XYZ with the shit.
yep, and it's like and it's different than you're chosen. It's more like you're unlucky
Yeah, you're
and
drafted. Yeah.
you become something that you have to that you that you aren't qualified to become and learn how to do that. And during the whole trip, he has to his other origin story is really becoming true, being able to see the truth to you about yourself and accept it because the sword of Shannara only works if you do that. And
Hmm.
he was uniquely, able to eventually through all the adventures was able to do that to accept who he was.
So
And
that's why the fucking adaptation failed because
yes.
a sword that would make you see yourself as you really are would obviously never work in Hollywood. So that's why. I get it, dude. Now I
Yes.
finally get it, Ron. You broke it down.
Yeah, it's also a concept, that's another problem with books like that is a big portion of them are concepts, and showing a concept on screen like that is kinda hard without
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
making it overly ridiculous, having like yourself show up, who's your true self, and another version of yourself or the selves that you think you are show up and have an argument or whatever.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
like it.
It gets
So
real
yeah.
Sherlock show real quick, like, even, like but, Sherlock show is pretty effective for the most part, but, like, oh, man, here comes the Mind Palace and the fucking all this extracurricular bullshit and all these fucking 15 iterations of me doing different time lapse shit in the room is like, "Oh, for fucks." Yeah, I could see why people would be like, "Damn, I would rather kind of, I don't know, skirt around that or make it like a, how I always like to, if anybody ever gave me a fantasy book to dull, I mean, a Freudian slip. If anybody ever gave me a fantasy book to fucking adapt, my first task would be to dull the magic and make it seem like more of a myth, or make it seem like sort of a, hey, you believed it the whole time, so it worked or whatever, but it wasn't necessarily magic. I wouldn't try to debunk anything. But kind of like Conan. Conan has
you,
real
you
magic in it, but they nerf it to where you could think it's just a trick of the light. But and I know that something magical just happened that saved the hero, but it
yeah.
doesn't have to be a Pegasus flat out of a dragon's asshole shooting eye beams or whatever the fuck. It could
Yeah.
be subtle. That's what I'm
You'd
subtle.
you'd kind of like the way Terry Brooks does some of his magic, because if it's powerful, it always backfires on you. It always causes harm to you. It always
Yeah.
changes you in some way, instead of you being able to control something that powerful. If
Yeah.
it's a smaller magic, it might be workable, but and the people who do big magics and are tough, they can die, one, and two, there's always a sacrifice to it. Like you let go of
Mm,
some part of yourself. You're alone all the time, because that it requires that, or it's always I think that's a very important thing when it comes to a magic type character. There needs to be a sacrifice. There needs to be something that is given away that makes it make more sense for that character to have that type of power. I think Constantine's a pretty decent example of that. Like, by his a lot of the power he got was made from a really bad deal that he did that got somebody killed.
yeah. And he can't stop, himself from like having cancer and shit. Like, okay, I'm a great magician or whatever, but I'm like dying too or whatever. Isn't that part of his shit?
It is on most
Yeah.
versions, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's got a spawn meter.
Yeah. Oh, Spawn.
Mhm.
Ooh, that's a
Well,
pretty fucked up origin.
yep. 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 Well, it just shows you the thing that I think Todd really got right was the whole hell part, because as we talked about in our Spawn episode of Rebooted on YouTube, Reboot It. Check it out on YouTube. Basically we rebooted Spawn, and one of the things we tried to work out was like he died, and there's something hellish about your best friend dating, your wife after you're dead. But at the same time, there's something like, oh, if it was gonna be anybody, it should be my best friend. But then he's like, no, fuck, why would my best friend do this to me? And all this kind of shit. And then he tries to come back. He has all these hell powers, and he has the power to use his magic to make himself look like anybody. But as a black dude, he tries to make himself look like himself and go talk to his wife, and he looks like a white dude. And he can't even his powers won't let him connect that way. It was just like, that would be hell, dude. You know what I'm saying? Just roll it up to your wife and this whole like, that's what was so dope about Ghost. Honestly, we talk about origin stories. I think Ghost is one of the best origin stories, superhero origin stories ever. This dude gets killed, doesn't accept it, stalks his wife basically, thinking that he can still communicate with her. Starts to accept the fact that he's dead, starts to see other ghosts and learn their powers, uses the powers he learns from the ghost that he meets to beat up people in real life and save his wife. And the only time he gets to touch his wife is jumping in Whoopi Goldberg's body and shit. It's like, damn, dude, that shit's hardcore, dude.
That is
That's a
pretty
great movie.
hardcore. That is a
It's
great movie.
one of the great screenplays of all time. really.
So earlier you said you didn't really like John Wick's origin.
I think it's more it's almost like I think the twist that Kolstad put on the genre is the same that he did with Nobody, right? It's just sort of like, I know all this hot shit. I choose to care a lot about this person, this thing, this dog, this whatever. I understand the dog is represents, something it's the last thing his wife gave him. And somebody taking that away from you obviously is fucked up because it's not the dog, it is his wife. But, you know, Frank Castle lost his wife and his kids. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see the little Ninos running around the John Wick farm. You know what I'm saying? It's a chick and a dog. What about two chip tooth little boys and girls? What about three? What about a whole Brady Bunch of family? Remember in the Punisher movie, they had the motherfuckers kill his whole family reunion. His whole family reunion was on the beach and they all got shot up.
They got
I mean,
fucking murked.
dude, I'm just saying, if we're talking about shit that motivates people to do stuff, it's the fact that an assassin had his people taken away from him. But like again, how many movies have we seen that have that? I just think 8711 and Chad Stahelski, and to a lesser extent, homeboy that does the Deadpool 2 and shit like that, that train movie. Uh those guys made that sing, and Kolstad making like the not obvious allegory of the dog. The dog is basically his wife. You know what I'm saying? Not
Yeah.
in some pejorative way, but you know what I'm saying? The dog is his wife and it's
And
dead now.
yeah. And it's his chance at redemption. Like it's, it was almost like, hey, this dog means you don't have to go back. You can still
Yeah.
be, because I assume that she knows everything he did. That's my assumption. That
Yeah.
isn't a secret to her, and
Mhm.
she knows everything he did, and doesn't want him to go do that because she knows who he truly is, etc., etc. And that dog
Mhm.
was the thing stopping him from doing that,
Mhm.
and giving him a chance at freedom. And
Oh, an overlooked part of the origin is also this. Theoretically, somebody breaks into your house, kills your dog, and all this kind of shit. If you were just some law abiding pussy, because everybody that abides by the law in these movies is an absolute pussy. You're some law and order pussy. You just call the cops and you say,
yep,
I know this guy, his son is this, that's where they hang out, that's where they do their business. But guess what? In that world, the cops cannot do shit at all to that dude. It
yep,
just so happens I'm like the greatest assassin of all time. So, and I know all their ins and outs, so I could do something to them. So it's like that gives him the out to go nuts. Is that like the only
hmm
way I'll ever get this satisfaction of seeing these people hurt? I cannot go to the cops. I cannot send a fucking tape to the FBI or some bullshit. I have to do it. I'm the only one that's equipped to do it. It really does graduate it beyond all the rest of the like, oh, I'm just tough and some grievance was against me and I'm gonna kill 50 guys. It does kind of raise at that level the fact that they live in a secret society where there is no justice for these people, the high
yep.
table and all that. And I love how
That
they
kid's
kept
protected.
spinning that. Yeah, they kept spinning that tail bigger and bigger. Like there's bigger and bigger people you can't fuck with. You thought you were badass fuck with those people over there that you can't fuck with. What about the people over here you can't fuck with? You really can't fuck with them. And he fuck with them. They okay, you fuck with them, but you can't fuck with these people. And he's like, yes, I will fuck with them as well. And he's just been fucking with higher and higher level people for 4 movies, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I really actually enjoy John Wick's origin story. So, just personal opinion, I love it, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, way to got on a limb there, bud.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just think I just had to talk myself into the all the fresh parts of it because on its face, it does seem really fucking dumb. Oh, you killed my dog, I'll kill your whole family. I know everybody likes to lick these jackals in the fucking mouth. I wish I had a dog right now. I wish I could have it to love it and pet it. But Jesus fucking Christ, get a grip.
I mean,
87
yes.
people's fucking lives should not hinge on a
No.
goddamn beast of the field. That doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I
100%.
mean? So it's just like people need to relax on that shit. But I get it as all
A
the
beast of
metaphor.
the field.
I just, I just, just like what the fuck? People are
Beast
crazy.
of the field, and man, that is just I've never thought of a dog as a beast of the field until now, and now, I mean, you're not wrong, he's out in the
Yeah.
field protecting the sheep or,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, giving you a
That's
warning for your horses or whatever, somebody's trying to steal your horse, I don't know. Yeah, he's a beast of the field. That's hilarious.
Okay, also speaking of beasts of the field, I am saddened it at the I like Solo. I am saddened at the origin of Chewie that we get because I would have
Yeah,
loved to see sort of a, for lack of a better word, just because we're putting furry things together, like a Rocket Raccoony sort of. Not a Raccoony from everywhere, everything all at once. Not a Raccoony, but a Rocket Raccoony sort of origin for homeboy. Like he's so smart, but people treat him like he's a dumb big carpet slave because they don't speak Wookiee. They don't speak Wookiee, and the people who do speak Wookiee, like the Trandoshans and shit, they're lizard assholes, man. They're never gonna tell people that these Wookiees are super cool. They walk around with Wookiee pelts on, like, oh, they're just beasts. Like we fucking kill them and wear their clothes. But like, no, 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 you have my cousin's skin on you, you piece of shit. While you talk to that Imperial and do your mission, you have my cousin's skin on you, dehumanizing me. You know what I'm saying? There's like
yeah,
something dope about that. You get nada. He's just a beast in a cage. He slams
and we
Han
don't even know
Solo
why he's
around.
there.
It's just like, what the fuck? Have him have competed some. I mean, I really think Solo was fucked up from the get go when it wasn't a two hander of Solo and
And
Chewbacca
Chewie.
right off the
Yep,
bat. Right off the bat,
100%.
just a two hander from the very beginning. You find out these dudes are on a mission together, and then maybe you get even a flashback to what how they really met or whatever. But you meet them as Chewie and Han Solo as young pups doing stuff, and maybe Chewie's only like 6'8" or something. You know what I'm saying? He's not seven
Instead
foot
of seven
five,
five or whatever. Yeah, yeah. That would be dope. I would love that. And I mean, even if there was an origin like he was the reason he was on that planet was he was tracking his cousins.
Yeah, I mean, just the bottom
Just
line is,
something.
yeah, something like showing even being brave enough to start the Solo movie with Chewie running from some slavers or something, or like shooting up some dudes in a Revolutionary War act, but his
Yep.
people lose and get slaved up, and then he's
And he's
slaved
gotta
up with a guy, and it's Han Solo, and it's like,
yep.
how'd you get here? And he's like, oh man, you'll never believe. And then we get to see Han Solo on
And
Coruscant or
solos.
whatever,
Boom.
and it's like, and it would be like a perfect reversal of like, you don't just start with homeboy's face or whatever. It's like Chewie's story is integral to Han Solo's as we know him. If Chewie
Yep.
didn't meet Han Solo at this particular time, which the movie does accomplish, I guess, but if Han Solo didn't meet Chewie at this time, Han Solo might be dead, might be an Imperial, might be this, might be that. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yeah, that would be much better. Well, I got why don't they just start hiring us for things, Ed?
I don't know, man. Maybe they can get it for free on a fucking podcast and then throw it in Chat GPT and get some Han Han Solo. Wouldn't
Wha-
it be cool?
wait, Third
Yeah.
act, you have the hero go through the hardest crucible and then succeed somehow.
Yep. And then the executive prints that shit out on a dot matrix printer. This is gold, Jerry.
Yeah.
Gold.
And makes you fix it for $12.
Yep. It's like, we got this hot ass Chat GPT, man. It came up with this new origin, right? A dude's hamster gets stomped on by these dudes from the mafia, but it's the Vietnamese mafia. A new mafia, new creature, new series. It's like, ugh. I think that's what was about like the generic pulp origins. I wanted to talk about one that I really liked is Will Money from Unforgiven. I love that movie. I love to talk about it. But if you think about it, his origin in that movie, you come into that movie and he's a pig farmer who is shitty and can't shoot and is dumb. And then somebody comes to him and says, "Yo, man, first of all, his wife is like dead, and he's raising two kids, and you see that he's in trouble, and you see he doesn't make enough money farming because he's not good enough at farming to make enough money to save his kids, and he doesn't have a wife to help him. And then this opportunity to go bounty hunting comes along, and he's like the guy for the job. You're like, how? and you see him trying to get his skills back, a blah blah blah. And over the course of the movie, he becomes who he used to be. And his origin was simply, I was a mean bastard. I shot the shit out of people. I didn't give a fuck. I was just fucked up and on drugs and drunk and fucking people up for a long time. Then I stopped and I met a great lady. Then she died, and I said I'll never do that stuff again. But now I gotta shoot people because I gotta get money to raise my fucking kids. I gotta go back on what I told her. Sorry, I gotta do it. Like the pathos of that is so beautiful, you know. But at the same time, it's like, who the fuck says you deserve a family anyway, shithead? All you did was shoot the teeth out of people's fucking. You know what I'm saying? He shot the teeth out of people's back of their heads for snoring too loud. He beat the shit out of people. He probably beat the shit out of chicks. He probably shot the shit out of natives for moving trains and shit. He did all kind of crazy shit for 30 years, and then he meets some fucking church chick with plump tits and his Renaissance fair outfit and then with the gingham sweater, and all of a
It
sudden
sounds
he
good.
gets to have a
Tell me more about
family.
that.
I'm just saying, all of a sudden he gets gifted with a fucking family and gets fucking little toe-headed kids to take care of and shit. It's kind of the thing about like Wolverine, like I love Wolverine as much as anybody, but if he committed as many fucking murders as it seems like he did for different military and black ops and stuff, who the fuck says you get to have? I'm not saying there aren't heroes and soldiers who doing stuff that I don't want to know about to save our freedoms and all that shit. I'm just saying a
In these
number of
stories.
things, a number of things that Wolverine has done in his life, and a lot of these heroes have done in their life are just straight murder, and then there's just switch that gets flipped in the movie that goes, "Oh, I used to murder, but now I love to play pickup sticks with my kids," and now all is forgiven. Yeah, we started this talk about Unforgiven. All is forgiven with these guys, and then we give a fuck about their families and their pets and their blah 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 because we make
That's
the
a good
people they're
point.
fighting, and then that's the thing in these movies, we make the people they're fighting be so bad, and that was what was so great about Unforgiven. The people they were fighting did a very bad thing. But a lot of the people they shot on the way to getting those guys were just dudes that were at the wrong place at the wrong time, and now they're getting shot in their neck from 100 meters away from you on a ridge because their boys went off and did some stuff that they didn't know about, and now they just gotta take up for their boys. So now all of a sudden you're getting shot on the toilet. You know what I mean? It's like a lot, dude.
And I gotta be honest with you, I always think about, like, with John Wick and stuff like that. If you're do you know when you're a thug if you're, like, an average thug? Do you know what I mean? Do you know,
Right.
like, "Okay, I'm a pretty good fighter, and I can get some stuff done," but if John Wick shows up, and I know about John Wick, like, everybody seems to know who this guy is, right?
Mhm.
I'd take the day off.
Yeah,
That's my day off.
yeah.
That's my day
I
off.
I love that scene where John Wick basically gives a guy a fucking chance to bounce. He's just like, "Hey, man, I think you should skedaddle." And this giant dude looks down at John Wick. He's like, "Thank you so much, John." And then fucking skedaddles like a motherfucker. Then
Yeah,
John
I love
goes in
that
and starts
scene.
shooting all those people. It's like, yeah, that shit is serious business. But yeah, as far as like just these guys. Oh, also gotta give props to RoboCop's origin story. I think that's top
Ooh.
tier shit right there, bro.
100%.
It's a
100%.
top tier origin story.
Which, you know, what's interesting because that is a top tier origin story. Yeah, that's just great. Uh, give him a rundown just for the people who might not know.
Well, I mean, he starts out as a cop, and then he's sort of a little bit saucy with it. He spins his gun like Hopalong Cassidy or like a laser guy on TV and shit. Well, that's not JT Lancer. That's from the like Big Chill, but like some kind of shoot 'em up guy is on TV shooting lasers, and his kid likes it. And he spins his gun around, and the kid likes him. It's a thing to connect with his kid, a little cool thing. And then he gets shot up by a bunch of criminals, and then he gets his body confiscated and it gets loaded up with all this cybernetic shit. They saw his arms off, his legs off and shit, put him in this cyber shell and send him out with these basic protocols and this sort of zombie body. And he just fights crime according to these corporate protocols for the people who own the cops. The cops are run by a private corporation. But slowly, RoboCop starts spitting the gun around, and RoboCop starts having memories of having a wife and kids and shit, and realizes that he's like had his life ended and then stolen, right? And then he, obviously adventure ensues as he tries to get back to being Murphy the cop and less being a robo zombie. for
Yeah.
corporate greed. You know what I'm saying? And but yeah, the thing about his origin is that you still get the I lost my wife and kids. Because your wife and kids ain't gonna come hug up on this cadaver body with no dick and no legs.
Yep.
Sorry. They're not gonna take you back. They've moved on like they were supposed to. Like,
Yeah.
so he lost his family, but not in the way a lot of these movies have it.
Yeah, because really he loses his family while still existing. It's like they wouldn't break like it's like yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal, but it's also beautiful at the same time. So it's interesting that you mentioned that because now when you think about origin stories for like characters that we love and heroes and all of that stuff, some of these aren't great. I'm thinking about Terminator. I don't think
Mhm.
I don't know if John Connor's story is that good.
Well,
What do
I
you
think
think?
it got better over time in regards to, like, I guess I think it's the perfect sort of backstory for a guy. I think that's why I opened it up to, like, origin stories and backstories. If you think that there's a guy
Mm,
in the future who's, like, the best fighter ever, and how can we get his, like, a case in point, another great backstory is fucking Indiana Jones's. In that
mm,
third movie, they break down for your ass all the reasons why he is how he is, all the reasons why he's estranged from his dad, all the reasons why he thinks things need to belong in a museum. He fucking hates snakes from this adventure. Like, he's got a scar on his chin. He learned how to love whips and shit. Every fucking thing that makes him him, he got in one like 7 minute adventure at the beginning of the movie. It's so masterful. It
yeah,
could be seen as spoon feeding you a bunch of information, or it could be seen as super masterful, fresh shit. I choose to see it the second way, and it does kind of show you like his origin story, and it makes all the rest of the movies make so much more sense that this guy could even exist. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely.
Like, what
Um,
makes
uh,
you so smart and physically capable to have these archaeology ass adventures? You know what I'm saying? What makes you be that? Because if he was just a fighter or an intellect, he would get fucked up. But he's both. How could you be both? And they kind of try to explain it to you.
yeah, they do a great job too. And it's now that you mentioned that, talking about how masterful that is. How do you feel about Star Lord's from Guardians, the movies version? Although it's pretty similar to the comic.
Yeah, you know what? Being made into a space pirate when you're a little kid and stuff is really cool. Um it is so funny that like the aliens decided to uh, I don't know, before you know it's ego and all that shit, the fact that aliens just chose to grab him up the day his mom died and just all this kind of shit is like it just seems
Random.
kind of cool and random. And then when you find out it's like not random at all at the end of the first movie, it's like, ah, okay, well, what was the reason? And then you find out and you're like, well, that was a little underwhelming. And then you go through the rest of the movies though and get it all wrapped up for you. And then you see Guardians 3 and it's like, oh, that was nice. So I think I'm not underwhelmed by Star Lord's origin, but I just think that the ability to play around with celestial powers, they always nerf those people. They always do. I think
Yeah, they kind of have to.
the origin of the Guardians of the Galaxy is why Guardians of the Galaxy as a movie works so well. The screenplay by that chick Nicole. I forgot that I heard her last name, but Nicole something. She wrote a great screenplay that James Gunn revised a little bit and got all the credit for. But that first movie is just structurally so sound and origin story. You get
Yeah,
just enough about everybody, and it doesn't give you really the origin of anybody. It gives you the origin of the team. I understand that's what it was meant to do, but that's really a great thing to do to show why people hang out. That's like a should be a great genre of movies right there. Just like the
actually.
story of how we started hanging out
Well,
should be a
and
whole
let's talk about
subgenre.
how amazing how fast Guardians creates a team of people that you believe cares about each other. Like, you believe that
Yeah.
shit at the end of that movie,
Mm-hmm.
them going down in the ball and him saying, "We are Groot," and all that stuff. You feel that shit.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 5 movies to feel anything from the first Avengers movies.
Well, it's like, what you call it? They have to build up characters that are like I think they learned their
Yeah.
lessons along the way too. I
Yeah, of
think that
course.
was a big one, and they had to put all together all those things. I don't think that's quite a fair comparison, but I do get what you're saying in regards to I was very emotionally involved in the Guardians of the Galaxy right off the bat, and I would not have been if you just presented me with how the
Yeah.
Avengers started kicking it. No fucking way. But
No.
I was just like, oh, I love Tony Stark. Oh, I love Captain America with his I like to jump around powers that they had him have at that time. He was just like jump around guy. I'm jump along Cassidy. I'm jump along Rogers. Um, but yeah, I just think it's hard to do the origin of a team. You know, it's really hard to do the origin of a team. We were talked about greatest duos last episode, like the origin of how Riggs and Murtaugh get together. It
Yep.
can't just be, "Oh, we're old army buddies." No, 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 no. I was about to retire. He was this young, crazy guy on the force. We got into this adventure over our head, and I knew a guy that was involved in it, and he knew exactly the military arm that they were involved with, and we put it together the case. We couldn't have cracked it without each other. We wouldn't have got the information without each other. Each of us had to participate, and we now hang out and want to keep fighting crime together. That's a great, you don't have to know everything about Homeboy other than, I'm a crazy war veteran. I came home and decided I was going to give everything up for my woman, and then she died on me, and now I'm just out in the street sniffing coke, rolling around, shooting people at Christmas tree lots and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have snapped. I can't be what I was going to be, which is like a regular cop and probably wear a uniform even and shit. He probably was just going to be a regular guy, but all that got taken away from him. Now he lives at the beach with a beast of the field in a trailer.
Well, we mentioned it as well. This new Rocket Raccoon origin is fucking epic.
Yeah, 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 dude. And I think we could talk about it without giving too much away. It does mirror the best parts of the comic book origin. They have him with his buddy Walrus and
Yeah.
what's her name? Fucking uh
Lilu, Lily, Lily.
is that right?
I think it's Lilu.
Lila. It's Lila.
Lila. We were
So
close. We know
yeah.
words.
So basically him, Lila, and Walrus changed to Teefs, I guess, in the movie.
Yeah.
Because Walrus is pretty dumb name. But yeah, fuck it. I gotta give credit. What's the name? Bill Mantlo created Rocket and all that
Yeah.
shit. And just the whole counter Earth is this place to put these experimental little people. That is such a fucking dumbass idea in the comics. I never bought it. It sounded so fucking dumb. They did exactly that in the movie and it was fresh. I
Yep.
really couldn't believe it. Like the counter Earth, that stupid as fuck. Like fucking pandas, fucking driving cars and shit. It's fucking dumb. But they pulled it off, man. It's great.
Well, it was interesting because they made the evolutionary not understand evolution, really, when it comes down to it. It didn't understand humans because it's incapable
Yeah.
of emotion. And so he thought just them being peaceful pandas would be perfectly fine. And it's like, no, you don't understand what human beings and what humanity is all about.
Yeah, I
So
think people that's too much it's too much nature and not enough nurture, right? Like you can
Mhm.
create a society, but if you create it to have oh man, I knew we were gonna get existential. Even without Bill, we got existential.
Yep.
Fucking dude, you make a society and you expect everybody to kick it and be equal, but you make no attempts at equity, and you wonder why crime sprouts up and drug addiction, all this kind of shit. When you make no attempt at equity, I ain't talking about fucking equality. Equality is gossamer wind in a typhoon. Gossamer wings in a typhoon. That's what fucking equality is. Talk about equity, right?
Yeah.
Making things like equal actual opportunities, equal, you know, making that it's hard. It's
Yeah.
very hard so you don't bother with that at all. And then you wonder why people's nature isn't keeping them docile and nice. There is no nature that's going to keep you from scrapping over resources when you make things so scarce. When you
Yep.
create scarcity and you make all this fake bullshit ways to, you just make criminals when you don't set your society up properly.
Yep.
And I just think that it's what a great commentary on that. The fact that he was just like, I'll just breed it out of them. I'll just
Yep.
gene sequence it out of them. I'll just
Yeah.
make the other people better in the future. He was just going to make more
I'll take
advanced.
choice.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He was just going to make more advanced criminals and assholes.
Yep.
That's all they were going to be. All those little jub motherfuckers were going to be
Yeah.
slitting each other's throats, fucking Lord of the Fly style, no matter what you breed into them, if you don't
Especially
set up
if you
their society properly.
exactly, if you set up a society where they're just like they all got the same house driving a 1982 Buick, like, of course things are gonna be terrible, dude.
I love that car. I loved every single 80s thing about all of the movies, frankly. I am
Yeah, me
just
too.
a sucker for all that shit. But as we dismount here, I would like to talk about do you think that the do you
The
think that
Joker
there
has the best origin story of all time. Yeah, 100% I do, Ed. I think that's
well,
the best origin story that's ever been written.
I did see a tweet that maybe unfollow a guy. I've been following this dude, I never do that, right? Because I don't follow nobody anyway. So, like,
Yeah,
if I unfollow you, that's like an act of war. And basically, this guy, he's like a screenwriter. He used to give up pretty good screenplay advice and shit, but he's just gone off the deep end. Like, this motherfucker said, I don't care if you don't like Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't care. It is immaterial to me. I don't like him that much. I think his best movie is Boogie Nights, which is like his second movie. So, fuck, what do I know? But bro, this dude said Paul Thomas Anderson's best movie. We talk about Punch Drunk Love, Magnolia, Boogie Nights, Phantom Thread, fucking There Will Be Blood, all those movies. This motherfucker said the best one by far is Licorice Pizza. I was like, you know what? I'm fucking out. I'm out. You're psycho. You're a psycho. You're like a real like a lunatic. You know what I mean? Like I can't listen to the
no, no,
ravings of
I
a
get it. You
lunatic.
you 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 unfriended you stopped following a person because of their opinion. I get it. I get it, Ed. It makes
Oh, come
sense.
on, man. He might
No,
as
but you're
well have
right. You are
come
right.
on. Come on.
That's
It's
like
just
that's like saying you
crazy.
you you love unapologetically love the first Howard the Duck in a very serious way as one of the best films that's ever been made. Not in like a campy, ridiculous, oh, they made a crazy
Right.
movie movie.
And that it's the best stuff that Willard and Gloria Hayek ever wrote, knowing that they did a draft of Star Wars and they wrote Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, and you think the
Yep.
best thing they ever did was Howard the
Was Howard
Duck,
the Duck.
you're fucking up.
Yep.
I can't take it.
Yeah.
What was another thing he said that was fucking crazy? Because that was what I was talking about. So this guy says fucking licorice pizza is his favorite PTA, and that just sets me off. And then I go, well, maybe it's just this weird taste thing. He might be
Yeah.
just like it's just people things affect people different ways. He goes, Todd Phillips, the Joker, is perfect and super dope. And it's the only way they could have done like a Scorsese light thing that good. And I'm just like, that's what really made me unfollow. I was like, you can't have two misses like that in a row.
No.
You just
You're
can't.
done fucked up. That's too many. It's too many misses like that.
It's fucking crazy. And again, I'm not trying to just fucking go, oh, Joker is such a dumb piece of shit. Bad, bad, bad. It is so well crafted that you got to understand how frustrating that is for people. All the people that you're low key maligning in that movie. I'm not going to really bring up how everybody that fails him is a black woman or a fucking somebody that's in, assistance position. Like all the people that represent the government failing him are black chicks, but the
Yep.
government or polite society failing him are black chicks. And then the other people who failed him are the upper crust that won't let him have his birthright according to his crazy mom, right? My
Yep.
birthright, I shouldn't be down here in the ghetto. If things were just, I'd be up there on a hill with you. So, like the exact two, three, four things it's trying to say about society and how it's like we're dog eat dog. We don't have enough social services to make sure that people who are, for lack of a politically correct word, crazy get get the treatment that they need so that they never have any violent outbursts, or their violent outbursts will be in a clinical environment where like they can learn that that's not the way, or maybe they won't even exist if they're not neglected for years. Maybe that giant violent gun outburst that causes the plot and extenuates the plot would never happen if he had proper attention. All that shit is just thrown away by how just flippant and stupid shit is. And it's trying to do the thing about like we lionize people who say some pithy words and then shoot a guy on TV, or we lionize the Kyle Rittenhouses that people take it into their own hands and fight against the elites, whoever the fucking elites are.
Yeah.
We love to lionize that as a culture, and we end up making heroes out of fucking Billy the Kid, all kind of fucking psychos throughout time,
Yep.
because we love the little story about how they took it back and they da 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 da. But I understand trying to make that point, but it doesn't do it well, and had so many people rooting for that dude. And it wasn't the people rooting for that dude's lack of media savvy. It's the movie presenting that person as such a victim of circumstance that they just had to get it on. They're like Wayne Grove from Heat. They just had to get it on. He had to shoot that talk show with the host in the mouth. There was no, the negresses at the fucking mental health office wouldn't help him, so he had to go crazy. And the one in his building wouldn't fuck him, and the other one wouldn't let her play with his baby. I mean, these are 3 strikes for society, am I right? The movie does that with a
It does.
beautiful, heart-wrenching score and a wonderful performance. Makes you think that that's what the story is about, or makes a lot of people think that's what the story is about, given how
100%.
people reacted and how people identified with this person who is more of an on-screen villain than Tony fucking Montana. This person from Joker, is
Yeah.
more of a villain on screen than fucking Tony Montana.
Yeah.
At least Tony Montana just killed drug dealers. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like this
And he was
guy,
just trying to get
it's
money and
crazy.
power for his family.
Right. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's just crazy to me how like we take that as a great version of an origin story for him. And and so many people have said this, but I just got to get off my chest. I've said it before, I say it again. There's no way that person fights any version of the Batman. Not
No.
even a Batman Earth 1 version that's like a drunk and falls out of his chair and breaks his hip type Batman would still handle the fuck out of this guy.
Yeah. I'd
So
handle that
how is
guy.
it Joker? How is that Joker? The whole point of Joker is he lasts through grit and craziness and wild verve. He he survives mortal combat with one of the greatest fighters of all time, and he goes toe to toe with him every time because his wild unrelenting fury gives him some sort of advantage that other criminals can't match. Nope. Nope, he's just a skinny fuck who just kinda dances weird. He's like a
And is bad
Madonna
at comedy.
background. Yeah, he's an open micer who does interpretive dance and has head injuries. And this motherfucker's gonna challenge Bruce Wayne in the future. Just and I understand going, no, stupid. There is no Batman in this universe because there is no good response to any of the things that are happening to Gotham in this universe. There's no way there'll ever be a Batman, stupid. There will only be Jokers. That's the point I'm making. Ooh, drops Mike and Smoke Bomb at the same time. Suck a dick. That's not even deep. That's stupid and nihilistic. It makes me sick. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is almost every interpretation of Joker is fucking dumb. And if you think it's a masterpiece, I got a bridge to sell you, man.
Yeah. And I'll sell you some good land in New Mexico.
There's got to be some. God,
No,
don't
there
make it.
is actually. It's
God, there got to be
there's some
some.
cool places in New Mexico. It's actually beautiful.
What about the
There's just
turquoise mines?
yeah, there's also just no jobs. So, but if you're rich,
Yeah,
go live there. You'll have a nice time. It's pretty.
sounds like
Um,
America, but yeah.
yeah, no, that's not true. That's totally true. Yeah, the Joker is a look. I'm gonna say it in a little less succinct and beautiful way than you said it. It's a pile of garbage. It's a terrible origin story, and we're all more stupid for it. Honestly,
Well, you said one last lackluster one. You know what was really funny to me about, like, some people don't need origin stories, and if you gave them ones, it would suck. And I was just thinking of one, Dirty Harry. If you tried to explain why Dirty Harry is how he is, it'd be the worst. No matter what you did. Dirty Harry's dirty. Dirty Harry's called Dirty Harry because when he was a little kid, his parents had no money and he was like a pig pen dirt cloud coming off of him. Nope. Okay, he grew up in a neighborhood as one of the only white kids. All the minorities picked on him. That's why he hates everybody equally. Nope. Fucking any way you tried to explain Dirty Harry origin story would be whack as fuck. And I understand that people think the character sucks, and he does. And he's a right wing bunch of pile of garbage. But I gotta say, there's no way to explain how he got there. That is
Sometimes
cool.
mystery's good.
Yeah.
Let's pull that out. Sometimes mystery is good. I do hit want to hit a couple of ones like for instance, Wolverine is much better when the mystery is he was brainwashed, doesn't remember shit, and has
Mm-hmm.
been made to be a killer, and he's escaped from this, and he still can't like escape his, anger and frustration at all the things that was done to him. That's
Mm-hmm.
way more interesting than James Howlett.
Yeah. James Howlett, little pussy ass fop, chilling out, drinking cold soup on his deathbed all the time as a young kid. Fucking
And then, like killing his dad or whatever because of
yeah,
asshole.
all
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I had a shitty
dumb.
dad. Okay, great. Yeah, whatever. All right.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think not knowing, dude, man, I we've talked about this a couple times, but man, when you're a little baby kid and somebody hands you a Wolverine comic and it's like, let's say you're not old as us, but it's a Wolverine comic from the 80s.
Yeah.
Dude,
It
in
looks so
that
cool.
comic, A, he looks so cool. B, that guy, no one knew how fucking old he was.
Yep. A mystery.
Nobody knew how old he was. Nobody really knew if he had actually started out as a human species or if he was like an evolved wolf or something. Nobody knew how he got his blades. He would say that I've got adamantium and I got these blades, but nobody knew how he got them. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, fuck, man, it was so cool. And even when you found out how he got them, then they started being like, well, nah, that ain't the real story because it's this, and then it's this, and then it's this. And they just they kind of multiple explained it to death, down to bone claws, down also now to this secondary mutation where he was for a time at least able to use energy from his bodies to make his claws hot. You remember hot
Yeah.
claws?
Hot claws,
Hot
baby.
claws.
Claws. It's
Dude,
terrible.
for every little thing they peel off, it's so bad. It gets worse and worse. You're right. The mystery, that's a really great example, actually. That guy's mystery. I just want to throw out there also Magneto.
Yep.
Man,
I was gonna bring
Magneto's
him
got
up.
a
I'm glad you're
great,
doing it.
great origin story. I mean, just the and I've tried to explain to people the hate that hate produced. Because I think a lot of right wingers and shitty people and so-called anti-wokers are just like, see, that's why fucking you can't give those people, whoever those people are, you can't give those people any power because all they'll do is seek revenge against you or for crimes of the past or stuff that you're not even blah blah. So it's basically a way for them to go, no, I don't want to fuck with anybody that would ever challenge the status quo because they're gonna do to me what I'm benefiting off of. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna do what my ancestors did that sets me up for life, and they don't understand that like there's so many people of all colors and creeds that have the opportunity for bloody revenge every single day and they don't take it because they don't desire it at all.
Yep.
And that's one thing that people just don't, a lot of these fuckers, they just don't think of it that way. There are
And
people
you
who
know
want
why?
equity, you know.
Because they're the people who would do that. Because they don't have the right kind of empathy. They have the empathy. They go, well, if I was in their shoes, that's what I would do.
Mhm.
And that's the
Mhm.
real truth. They
Mhm.
go, I would take revenge in this scenario, and
Mhm.
that's why they're the type of people they are, and they suck.
Right.
And
Right. And
Magneto
so
sucks, but he also is one of those
mhm.
characters that makes sense in that sort of twisted ass way.
Mhm. Yeah, because he's just somebody in his own head. Honestly, he is like John Wick, right? There are people who fucked over my people super fucking hard when they thought I was a human,
Yep.
right? When they thought I was a human, they murdered and gassed my people. And then the motherfuckers is talking about now a new sort of extermination program for the enslavement program for these motherfuckers, and I'm one of the most powerful ones of my people. It is my like Spider-Man-esque duty to fuck these dudes up.
Yeah.
And then in that though, it's almost like how certain artists use satanic imagery because everybody who doesn't believe in like, you know, Fisher Price, my first religion, doesn't believe in Satan. Okay.
Yeah.
But because so many people do, and it's such a sacred cow or anti-sacred cow, antichrist
Yeah.
superstar cow, uh, because it's so crazy to people that anybody would that if Satan did exist, that anybody would ever fuck with him. Those people use that image of Satan to like make Midwesterners be sad or make them go, oh, I'm gonna boycott that. So it's
Yeah.
almost like that. I think that's what Magneto would be doing with this Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Obviously, as a simple comic book concept, he was calling them evil because I am evil. But if you think about it, if you're gonna keep calling me evil, then I might as well be the most evilest motherfucker you ever seen in your life, bitch. I'll represent everything you think is evil because everything you think is good is a piece of shit. It's like that old Rick and Morty quote. Like, oh, you're gonna shit on me. I've seen what makes you cheer. It sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the stuff that
Well,
makes
and
you cheer sucks. The stuff that you think is right is wrong. So I'll be evil because that'll be I'm right. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the thing about it is there's that I think that one of those things is like there's one of those points of view when you think about Magneto where you go, like, you do understand that if you think about it, you understand that what he views humans as is as Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
view humans as like regular ass people. He just thinks, "Oh, this is the group of people who are going to try to kill my people."
It's like seeing a
And
bunch of little snakes, like somebody with no powers and no like a human child is to him like maybe a baby rattlesnake. A baby rattlesnake will hurt you and kill you more than a big one because they have the same venom and they don't know how to dispense it. And you think they're an innocent creature, but they're really fucked up and dangerous. That's what he thinks the average human kid is because they're just gonna grow up to learn how to use their power and their privilege to harm me and hurt me and support shit that'll make me look like a bad guy.
yep.
That's how he thinks, you know? So I try to explain to people the power of the hate that hate produced. When you hate motherfuckers so much and they internalize that hatred and turn it into hatred of you, there can be frankly black people who live amongst a bunch of white people and really hate white people because of the stuff that's under them. They really do. They're that fantasy
Mhm.
that people have about the racist black guy. They become that because they fuck
Yeah.
these crackers. They're assholes. They fucked me over my whole life. Fuck them. I think they're bad. They smell like wet dogs and all this mean racial stereotype shit they start doing to like low key defend themselves. But it
Mhm.
becomes this offensive shittiness, you know, to just get off the fact that they feel so oppressed. The hate that hate produced is a motherfucker and it's very powerful.
It
And it, you
is.
know,
And that's what makes Magneto's origin story so good. Is that's exactly what he's doing. Um, is there anyone else that's popping out to you, like Luke Skywalker? You know, well, your favorite character, I believe. Darth, Darth Vader. How about Darth Vader? You love Darth Vader?
I mean, honestly, Darth Vader's origin is pretty fly. I just,
It actually is. Yeah.
wish they kind of, you know, yada yada yada. The stuff in the Clone Wars making the prequels better, that whole jazz. I just think when you look at it, just in stark terms, yeah, my buddy who trained me, I decided to tip over the apple cart and do a bunch of revolutionary shit. And my buddy who trained me chopped my legs off and left me to die on a big pile of ash. And then this crazy dude that's kind of got some kooky ideas came and he saved me. And he gave me a fresh ass robot body. And now I'm just gonna serve him as long as I can until I can have me my kid, and then I'm gonna flip it on him. That's what the new retcon is, that he
Yep.
knew about Luke and them, and he was just keeping Luke safe, but like not telling anybody about him until he could find him later and flip him and turn him into a guy that beat Palpatine. Is oh fuck. But
Bleh.
yeah, overall, Darth Vader, yes, a person who tried to do good and tried to be the person who brought balance to the force. I ended up doing it, but not in the way that he thought he was. I think it is an interesting flip on
Yeah.
the chosen one narrative, and I think people don't give it as much credit as it should get because of the Jar Jar Binks and all the goddamn droids and shit. I'll tell you, when they went to droid shit for full kitty bullshit, that really was the I mean, you notice in the newer movies, it's really guys. It's back to stormtroopers and shit because even though they aren't really people, them getting hurt and them
Means
being
something.
soldiers, it means something because the Empire is a fucking fascist organization. And that's what's so scary about fascists. They can always find some motherfuckers to be with them. They
Yep.
can always find somebody so downtrodden or so unprotected by society that they'll
They
join
can,
in that and
yeah,
kill
or they can
people and hurt
steal them
people.
and make them
Mhm.
into what they
Yep.
wanna make them. So, yeah,
All that
there's
shit.
all that. Yeah.
But like a droid, there's there's no catharsis killing a droid, and there should be catharsis killing another person, but this machine punches fascists. It doesn't chop robots in half. You know what I'm saying? This
Yep.
this machine kills
That's
fascists. That
100%.
that that should be the tenor of it, and it should be a pitched battle. But when it's like, oh, bleep blop beep bop boop, what's going on? No, they did a ninja flip over me. I'm being force pushed. That just started being so not cool, and it took the war out of it. It
Yeah.
wasn't a war, it was like a video game against robots, you know what I mean?
I agree.
So, yeah, Anakin was dope, though. I love Anakin, I will always love Anakin, which is why I fought so hard for his fucking ass in the rebooted episode. I've
Yeah.
always loved Anakin, and that's why I had to fight so hard for him to actually finally get his due, you know what I mean?
Yep. 100%.
But in the end, I do have the last one, and it's just funny. Like we give artists origin stories, whether they're and I'm not talking about comic book artists, I'm just talking about like the one that comes to mind is everybody knows Quentin Tarantino's origin story. People don't really know a lot of film people do, but people don't know that Martin Scorsese was like an asthmatic kid and he just was like just looking at all the kids playing stickball and eating hoagie sandwiches outside. And he was just sort of asthmatic in his house. And he watched a billion movies on TV and watched a billion movies in the movie theater. And that's where his love of it came from because he couldn't go out and adventure himself. He couldn't run and play and all that kind of shit. But the movies took him away. No, hardly anybody that isn't some film fucker knows that.
I
But the
didn't.
average geek off the street knows that Quentin Tarantino worked in a fucking video store, and then they phrase it as instead of going to film school. First of all, I've seen Quentin Tarantino's handwriting. He wrote this chick a note. It said, "I love your legs." Legs had two G's in it. Okay, this motherfucker did not go to a fucking video store instead of a film school. I do not think it was in the cards for that dude. Okay, but he made his own way, and everybody knows that origin story because it's almost like them selling us, them being they, meaning whoever you think, selling us on this story of like, yeah, man, you could just be a relentless consumer forever and then make stuff. And frankly, I bought it. And that's why we do this podcast. Almost honestly, certain shit like I haven't listened to his podcast with Roger Avery, but I can only imagine how if you're a dude of a certain generation and you're on coke, how interesting it would be to hear Tarantino and his best buddy, who are both uh
Also on
professional
cocaine.
filmmakers, yeah, who are both on cocaine and also professional filmmakers, talk about movies from their perspective. I bet you that podcast is
Yeah.
pretty awesome. But it's just like it's this thing. What I wanted to do with this project was to be able to like talk out a bunch of fresh ideas with smart people, look at a bunch of tropes and shit from all of the genres. That's the whole point of it being about the greatest, right? We're looking at the
Yeah.
greatest examples of these so I can fucking collect them all and do my, chat GPT super brain. I won't even denigrate my brain by calling it ChatGPT. Using my experiences and my soul to look at all the tropes and look at all the greatest examples of everything and be able to like come up with dope stories and come up with things that other people didn't come up with because I know all the shit and we've categorized them. That's kind of the point of the whole shit. So like I think it's interesting how like Tarantino's thing was doing that with movies, being able to like know this guy did a dolly shot for 22 seconds, and what I'll do is a dolly shot for 23 seconds, and then give it to a guy on a crane, and then go down, and then I'll play this song. He played that song, but I'll play this other song because this is better. Knowing the shit, you know what's been done before, so you can bite it, reinterpolate it, reject it, improve upon it, but you got to know it first. And I think that's like this whole origin story. It's like origin story conversation. There's some metaphor for like, if you know where something comes from, you can appreciate what it becomes, you know, from Rocket Raccoon to like John Wick to the fucking whatever. These characters, like a lot of times, if you create a character right, you yearn to know more about them and you want to know the process by which they became fresh because people couldn't with Quentin, people were just like, oh, he's so amazing. In the 90s there's like no competition for him. He's like an 8'5" guy who could shoot threes. Oh my god, he's amazing. And really, they didn't have a way to articulate how somebody that didn't come through regular film fuckery was this had a voice this arresting. It was this good. So I had to boil it down to he watched a bunch of movies, I guess. He was in a
Yeah.
movie. He was in a movie. We always try to find what made somebody something. So it's like when we look at these origin stories, when we go back to like Indiana Jones, they showed us in 7 minutes why Indiana Jones is in Indiana Jones. That isn't realistic, but it serves you something you think you need at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You think you need to know where does this guy come from? We'll take this. This is the last movie we're ever gonna do. Wink, wink.
Wink.
And we're trying to show you. We're trying to wrap up the story. They were trying to rack a raccoon. This motherfucker is
Yep.
what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying? They were trying to do the rack a raccoon technology of just like boom, give him all the stuff at the end, and you'll realize why he was that way. Or rather, Rocket Raccoon is employing Indiana Jones technology.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's one of the cool things about talking about origin stories is the origin informs why the character is how they are. But then once they are how they are, most stories start like you love with this arc. You know why they are how they are, but the story is how are they going to change from how they are.
Mm-hmm.
And those two things
Mm-hmm.
work in such concert to make stories good.
I mean, and it's necessary. Like the origin, without a good origin, them moving in the direction that you want them to move cannot happen. It just can't.
Mm-hmm.
If Rocket doesn't go through what goes through, he can't become a Guardian of the Galaxy. He can't be a
Mm-hmm.
misfit that needs to have a found family.
Mm-hmm.
It's that it's
And
just it can't.
and if he doesn't meet those dudes and become a found family, when the guy comes to get him and take him back to his master or whatever, the story's over.
Yep.
If he had not made those relationships, and if there weren't people who have had cosmic battles and been on the forefront of every cosmic battle for the past 10 years, you know, in the whole universe, if he hadn't met those dudes and made good with those dudes and they hadn't gone through those adventures, there'd be no one to help him and save him now. So it's like, you know, you found out why he was that way in their other previous adventures, and now you find out why they give a fuck so much about him now. Well, you don't find out, but you see that they give a fuck about him so much that this adventure that's just basically somebody coming to just scoop him up becomes so much more complicated because he's not just a piece of trash. He made friends. You know what I'm saying? He went out
Yeah.
there and made the type of friends that could even beat you, you know, and that's as a supervillain. You're a supervillain who runs whole planets, who makes whole races. This one creature can beat you with a little help from his friends.
It's beautiful. And that all started from a good origin. And you guys, I'm getting a little teared up. It's
Turn
beautiful.
up.
What a good episode this was. Thanks Ed. This was a great idea. I'm glad we did it. We have lots of great episodes that are different on our Patreon, patreon.com/the greatest pod. Go on there. We have literally years of interesting content for you to check out. And you can see our origins starting off with
Mm-hmm.
sometimes recording in the car about some whatever goofy bullshit to moving up and doing different types of stuff and really talking about deep stuff and personal issues. So if you're interested in supporting us monetarily, that's what you do. Greatestpod.com slash, oh, sorry, patreon.com/the greatest pod. Also, you could leave us a review, right, Ed?
Yeah, you could leave a review on anything where there's a set number of stars, 5 stars. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, leave us 5 stars on Spotify, leave us 5 katana swords on Ninja Pod, leave us, whatever the fuck
Whatever
is the
it is,
most on
give
the
it to
thing.
us.
And it would just be really great if, like, sometimes when we hear something, when we say something super fucking outrageous or something crazy, just show it to somebody. You never know what can happen.
Yep.
People, spread the web, because I think a lot of people think like us, and we just need to find them. I think we all need to band together and have these thoughts and have these conversations, because nerd culture has gotten so kind of toxic and sort of lacking nuance. And I
Yep.
think even when we're being assholes, like, hey, the Green Lantern ring sucks, Luke Skywalker's boring, even those, we have so much more to say beyond it that makes you kind of agree with us, or at least see where we're coming from. We're not dismissive. I
Yep.
think you can tell that from this whole thing. We're not just, we'll talk a thing to death to get all the way around it. We'll do a treatise on Transformers or the Thundercats or something and make it seem like a real fucking story. We try to take these things seriously, because that's where the magic is. So we thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for leaving us reviews and telling people. And uh thank you for listening to another original, traditional episode of The Greatest Pod.